All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Jacob, and welcome to my first podcast type thing here on my new channel, my new show, Fifth and Goal. Obviously, from what you see on your screen and the name of the show, we're going to be talking a lot of football here, some sports, really just sports in general, but mostly football. Um, Usually, with how these things are going to be structured, is we're going to talk random sports at the beginning, whether that's NBA, MLB, college. We'll talk that at the beginning. We'll move into a recap of the previous week of the NFL. I'll talk about scores, I'll talk about players, I'll talk about games, I'll talk about, anything that happened in those games that I feel is important. We won't go through every game, but we'll go through some of the big moments. And then we will move on to predictions. I will make my prediction for every single game in the NFL season, or not in the NFL season, in the next week of the NFL, and I'll give you my lock of the week, my upset of the week, and what teams to watch out for next week. Then after that, I'm going to be talking about some fantasy football. Maybe not in the first episode, but I want you guys to leave in the comments your fantasy questions, your fantasy thoughts, anything you think about fantasy, and I'll let you know my opinions on that or something like that. We might talk a little bit here in the first episode, but probably not. Anyways, the first thing that I wanted to talk about before we get into the NFL is I wanted to go into the NBA a little bit and talk about the recent news of two big players that are moving that we heard recently, and that is obviously Carmelo Anthony and Dwayne Wade. Carmelo Anthony moving to the Knicks, I think, is or moving from the Knicks to the Thunder. That's obviously big trade for the Thunder. I think that puts them in good contention. However, they don't have a bench anymore. They have Isaiah Cannon, they have Raymond Felton, and I can't even think who else is even on their bench. I'm not a huge basketball fan, so I don't know all that, but I think they have the rookie Terrence Johnson as well. So their bench is not great. Their starting lineup is pretty good. You have Russ, Roberson, Paul George, Carmelo Anthony, and Steven Adams. That's a good starting five. Obviously, the weakest link is Roberson, but the guy can play some defense. So no matter who they play, Roberson's going to lock up the best guy. Well, not lock up, but he'll play against the best guy. And then you've got three good scoring options and a good rim protector in Steven Adams. So they'll compete. They'll do really well. But when it gets to the playoffs, I think their durability will be tested without that bench. Can they beat the Warriors? That starting five could compete with the Warriors, but the Warriors bench is just too good with, David West, Sean Livingston, Nick Young, all those guys. They're just too good. They're just going to overpower a Thunder bench that's not that strong. And then there's obviously Dwayne Wade and his move to from Chicago to Cleveland. Now, I'm going to put this out there in the first episode that I am a Cleveland sports homer. So anything that happens to Cleveland sports or anything about Cleveland sports, I root for. So obviously, I'm really excited to have Dwayne Wade in Cleveland. But Dwayne Wade in Cleveland is huge because that now allows the Cavs to have one of those starting lineups that's really good. They say Isaiah Thomas could come back Christmas or early January. So that gives you a playoff starting lineup, hopefully, barring injuries, of IT, Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, Kevin Love, Tristan Thompson. That's a really good starting five. And then you have the thing that Cleveland should have is a solid bench with Rose and Crowder and Jeff Green and J.R. Swish, Iman Shumpert, all those guys, Kyle Korver. They'll have a strong bench, and that will help. I think D. Wade adds a lot to that team. And I think Crowder and Jeff Green and Derrick Rose add a lot more to that team than people expect. Not to mention, the Cavs had that first-round pick. We'll see if LeBron leaves. We'll see if he stays. But the Cavs have that first-round pick. That will also help. So how do I think the NBA is going to shake up this year? I think it's going to shake up mostly like it has the past 3 seasons. I think we'll go for episode 4 of Cavs Warriors in the finals. I just don't see the Celtics climbing that hump, even with Kyrie and Gordon Hayward and Al Horford. Is that team still better than Cleveland? Or is it now better than Cleveland? I don't know, because it never was. Is Cleveland still better than Boston? I believe so. We'll see when we get to the season. Kyrie's a really good player. We'll see how he gels with Gordon Hayward. I think Cleveland, though, that starting five is just going to be too good for Boston when the playoffs come around. And Boston's bench isn't going to be as good as Cleveland's bench. And then in the Western Conference, You've got a lot of strength in the Western Conference. There's a lot of superstars over there. Pretty much all the superstars that were in the East are in the West. Plus the superstars that used to be in the West are still in the West, other than Hayward. So the West, it's going to be more competitive this year. I still think the Warriors come out of the West, but I think the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Rockets, the Spurs, they're all going to compete with the Warriors, and they're going to put up a better fight than they have in previous years. I think the Thunder and the Warriors meet for the Western Conference Finals, and it's going to be a really good series. If OKC's bench can step up, they've got a shot, obviously, to win that series. So yeah, that's my NBA opinions. I guess we talk a little bit of MLB. I don't necessarily usually talk MLB. No real news in the MLB other than Aaron Judge is an absolute animal. 50 home runs as a rookie. Might have 51 by the time this video goes up. Who knows? He's just a monster. Giancarlo Stanton, absolute monster. Wild card races are pretty much, well, the AL one is pretty much over. It's interesting to see how Minnesota has changed. They've turned their turned their team around here in 1 year. They're going to make the playoffs. They'll play New York. The Indians trying to clinch that number 1 seed. They did lose last night, and Houston's playing right now as I'm recording this, so we'll see what happens. The Dodgers just keep winning. They're over 100. They're looking to be the best team in baseball, although that losing streak didn't help because the Indians were right on their tail for a while, and they still are. Dodgers have 100, and my Indians have 98, so we'll see. I think the Dodgers come out with the best record, and I think the Indians get best record in the AL. They'll have home field advantage through the ALDS and the ALCS. World Series prediction, I'm going to go Indians-Dodgers just because that's what everyone's going with, and I think how could you not go with Indians-Dodgers? That's kind of the obvious answer. I could also see maybe the Astros sneak in. Maybe the Red Sox find a way to sneak in. I don't know. And then the Nationals, you can never really count out the Nationals, especially with Bryce Harper back now. You can really never count them out. So, we'll see what they do. But I'm a bigger football fan than anything. Obviously, this podcast is called Fifth and Goal, so it's obviously a football thing. I don't know a lot about the MLB and about the NBA, but I could tell you this. I do watch both of them, so I could tell you a little bit of information. With that being said, though, let's move on to the meat and potatoes of this podcast. What's probably going to take the longest? The NFL and the recap and the predictions for next week. We're going to start right there with right here in Rams 49ers. And you guys know this game was better than people expected. This was a really good game. Jared Goff versus Brian Hoyer going in. That doesn't really sound like an enticing matchup, but they put on a show. Todd Gurley, 3 touchdowns. Sammy Watkins with 2 more. And the Rams dropped 41. So that was a really good game. The 49ers hung in it. Carlos Hyde had a big game. You know, if you got Gurley, Hyde, or Watkins in fantasy, you were off to a 30-point lead after, on Thursday and just put your opponent in a big-time hole to climb. And that was pretty interesting. It was a pretty crazy game. It was fun to watch, and I think the Rams are going to do better than people think this year. They're 2-1 right now, and they're a lot better of a team than people are. I think people are going to give them credit for. That defense is better than people expect, and Gurley and Goff are really figuring it out here on the offensive side in year 2 and 3 respectively. Jaguars-Ravens, there's not much to say. The Ravens played like absolute crap, and the Jaguars just love it in London. If they move to London, they'd probably go undefeated, it just seems like, because they're just so good in London. They go 44-7 over the Ravens. Mercedes Lewis, 3 touchdowns from Bortles. And the running game, kind of quiet, just 1 touchdown from Fournette, but doesn't really matter. Jaguars take it big. Bills-Broncos, not much to say about this game other than the Broncos kind of stunk it up more than people expected. That probably ruins some Survivor leagues and some pick'ems and stuff like that. Potentially people picking the Broncos, because I would have too. Potentially, it was a thought. The Bills just played a really good game. Tyrod is proving his worth over there in Buffalo. Bears-Steelers, this is an interesting one because of my man Marcus Cooper. I'm sure you've seen the play. If not, I might link it in the description or something of this video, but Marcus Cooper, man, block put right into his hands, running towards the end zone, does the old Leon Ladd or the Deshaun Jackson when he dropped the ball at the goal line. He celebrates too damn early, and he loses the ball out of the back of the end zone. And then, was it the punter, the holder, or was it Vance Mc... I think it was the holder, Jordan Berry, falls in the end zone and knocks the ball out of bounds, which is a penalty. So they get the penalty on the Steelers or whatever, and the ball moves back to like the 1. Bears trying to run a play for a touchdown. False start. They back up. Kicker comes in, and they get a field goal out of a block punt, or a block field goal that should have been a touchdown. So it would have been a 4-point swing, well, a 7-point swing on the block punt. Instead, it's only a 3-point swing. Bears still win in a really good game for Howard and Cohen. Saints-Panthers, nothing much. Saints offense just overpowered the Panthers defense, and Cam looked like Cam. Well, he didn't look like MVP Cam. He looked like what Bleacher Reports reported today, that Cam Newton, the Panthers believe he's worn down. His body is breaking down, and I think it showed in that Panthers-Saints game. Buccaneers-Vikings, same really situation as the Buccaneers couldn't handle the Vikings, which is very surprising because they had Case Keenum going. Stephon Diggs and Adam Thielen are a dynamic duo, and it's nobody expected that coming into this season, but they're amazing. If they're available in your fantasy leagues, go pick them up. Thielen and Diggs are both doing great. Even with Case Keenum at quarterback, they both found a way to just excel. And it's pretty cool to see. I benched Thielen this week because I didn't think he'd do good with Keenum, and he ended up doing really well. So, that was a surprising game. Buccaneers didn't look so good. Mike Evans only held to 5 catches by one of the most underrated corners in the league in Xavier Rhodes. Colts-Browns, obviously this one's a little bit disappointing to me because I'm a Browns fan. We're 0-3. They played bad, but they made it close. That's kind of what we do every game, it seems like. Well, except for the Baltimore game. We really do that a lot. We play bad, but keep it close. Brissett runs for 2 touchdowns and throws for, I think, 1 more. We couldn't cover T.Y. Hilton. But on the offensive side of things, we didn't look horrible. We had some moments. We had 9 or 8 dropped passes. I can't remember the exact number. 4 offensive pass interference calls, and Kaiser threw 3 interceptions. 1 that was his fault, 1 that was a drop, and 1 that was a Hail Mary that was intercepted by Malik Hooker. So he threw 3 picks. We'll count 2 of them. We won't count the 3rd. Well, we'll count 1.5 of them because one of them was not a great throw, but it was still a catchable ball. Hit Britt right in the hands. It's bounced off him into the hands of Rashaan Melvin. So we'll see. Kaiser could be the future for Cleveland. I don't really know. No one really knows. But Jacoby Brissett looked good. Colts defense looked Browns defense looked bad. It was just an all-around, it's kind of a sloppy game to start. Ended up being okay. Jets, Dolphins. Jets. Great. Wow. Great game for the Jets. Dolphins looked horrible. Josh McCown showing up a little bit, throwing that deep touchdown to Robbie Anderson, and just making it a little bit interesting for the New York fans as they actually have a team with a win, and it's not the Giants. But good for the Jets. Not good for a lot of people. I picked the Dolphins in Survivor, so obviously that's bad for me. I owe $20, but that's cool. Good for the Jets. They get a win. Houston and New England. What a game this was. Houston, Deshaun Watson. Houston always plays so well against New England, and I don't know what it is. They just match up so well. That defense is so good, although they gave up 36 to TB12 and 5 touchdown passes. It was a good game, though. Houston was in it the whole way until about 40 seconds left. The greatest quarterback of all time, arguably, throws a freaking amazing pass in the end zone to Brandon Cooks. I mean, how are you can't stop that. The way that the Texans tried to stop it is the way that you are supposed to stop it, and it still didn't work. They didn't stop it. Brandon Cooks, hell of a catch. Tom Brady, hell of a throw. Patriots are 2-1, and they're looking pretty strong, other than when they play the Chiefs. Falcons, Lions. Controversy. Falcons 3-0, Lions now 2-1, but controversy. Did Golden Tate get in the end zone? I think yes, but I don't know the ruling. I don't know the exact ruling as to what they said. I think that they said Golden Tate was down, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, Go look up the end of the Falcons-Lions game last week. Golden Tate caught the game-winning touchdown, or so they thought. He got the game-winning touchdown, kind of caught it at about the 2 and reached out to the end zone, and I mean, everybody and their mother thought he was in, including him and Stafford and the Lions fans. There were fans tweeting that they won, and then refs go into review, and they look, and apparently Tate didn't get in. I kind of thought he got in, but his knee very well could have been down when he got the ball across the plane. So maybe his knee was down, maybe his elbow was down, maybe something was down. But that's one of those calls that refs almost always call a touchdown, and then they call it not a touchdown in this case, and it's very interesting to think about. But Golden Tate, I mean, you maybe just walk into the end. I don't know. Falcons win. Lions, as Jim Caldwell said, didn't do enough things to win. Technically they did, but we'll pretend like they didn't for this scenario. Eagles-Giants, oh my, so many crazy games this week, and this might be the topper. How about a 61-yard field goal from a guy who's on a practice squad about a week earlier? You basically called out me to come and kick that 61-yard field goal. Jake Elliott out of Memphis, 5th rounder from in Cincinnati. They cut him. He goes on the practice squad at Philadelphia, and he hits a 61-yard field goal to beat the Giants. Heartbreak in New York. They have 1 win between their 2 teams and 5 total losses. And the Giants, they woke up a little bit. Odell had 2 touchdowns. They scored 24. Eli didn't look horrible. Just what really happened was they got unlucky. They did what they needed to do on that last drive. Jake Elliott comes in and hits a freaking crazy field goal. That's all you can say. Seahawks-Titans, I didn't really get to watch a lot of this one, so I can't really analyze it very well. DeMarco Murray, bounce back game for him against a really good defense, so that's good for DeMarco. He comes in and plays a really, really nice game. And then Seahawks they might not have it anymore. I don't know what it is, but they might not have what they used to have. The Legion of Boom is getting older and older. Their offense hasn't clicked since really when Marshawn retired and left. Their offense hasn't really been the same. They haven't had that running back. You know, Russell has nobody to give some of the weight to. It's kind of just Russ trying to throw to Richardson, Baldwin, and Lockett, and he's not. I mean, they're doing it, but not as effectively as when they had the running game. Chiefs Chargers. Another game I didn't watch all that much because I was watching Packers-Bengals instead. Chiefs-Chargers. Chiefs continuing their dominance. Kareem Hunt is the NFL's leading rusher, and he has, 401 rushing yards through 3 games. Has more rushing yards than 26 different NFL teams, so that's pretty crazy. And the Chargers, their offense needs to step it up. They can't just score 10. That offense has a lot of weapons. Melvin Gordon, Keenan Allen, Tyrell Williams, the rookie Mike Williams, Travis Benjamin. Not to mention a potential Hall of Famer at quarterback in Phillip Rivers. They have so much talent. They got to figure it out on offense. So this is going to be a long season in the tough AFC West with 3 good defenses. 3 good defenses. Bengals-Packers, another freaking crazy game. Bengals are the only team that Aaron Rodgers had not beaten prior to that game that they won. Bengals were up in that game, but Rodgers is Rodgers, and you never count him out of a game. Makes the comeback in overtime, or he gets the comeback, gets the game to overtime. Great route combination by the Packers and Mike McCarthy. They send Nelson and Allison both deep against 1 deep safety, and they hit Geronimo wide open for the touchdown. So it was crazy route combination, and it was really, really just a great throw from Rodgers. We're going to scroll down a little bit here to get to the next game. Raiders, Redskins. Redskins just played fantastically against Oakland. The Redskins just played really, really, really well. Some good sacks. They had 2-3 turnovers. Had at least 2 interceptions on Carr. Raiders offense never got going. Obviously, Redskins defense just locked them up. Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper combined for 2 catches and, 15 yards. Josh Norman had some words to say, and he was correct. He's talking trash, but he backed that up. He locked him up. He locked both of those two. Him and Breland and Kendall Fuller did a whole lot of damage last week, and that was pretty impressive. And then you got Cowboys-Cardinals. Fitzgerald still proving why he's one of the best to ever do it. Has a great game. I think he was 13 catches, 143 and a touchdown. Dak had that crazy flip into the end zone. But the Cardinals, their defense is playing okay. They did a good job covering Dez, and they didn't hold... Zeke didn't go absolutely crazy. He had an okay game, or he had a decent game. The Cardinals, I don't think they know whether or not they want to be contenders. Because some weeks they'll play really good. And this is 2 weeks in a row where they haven't played really good. They barely survived against Indianapolis last week. They had to get a pick from Matthew in overtime to set up a field goal. And then this week they lost, and they didn't play very good other than Fitz. David Johnson being gone really hurt the Cardinals, and it hurt them more than anybody expected that it would, I think. And maybe not. I personally thought their defense would be able to carry them a little bit farther than it has, and it hasn't. Their offense needs to step it up, and they haven't. And that's pretty disappointing if you're a Cardinal fan, because their defense is their strong suit, and their offense can't carry that team like it can for some teams like the Falcons or the Saints, where that can get carried. So let's move on to week number 4 of 17. We'll start making our predictions for next week. And we will start with Bears-Packers tomorrow night at 8:25. On Thursday night with the Color Rush divisional matchup, one of the oldest rivalries in the NFL. I'm going Green Bay, and that's it. I'm going Green Bay in that game. The Bears just don't have enough power or firepower to compete with Aaron Rodgers and a Packer defense that's looked above average so far this season. The Packers win easy. Saints-Dolphins in London. I'm going to go with New Orleans in this game. I think New Orleans offense will overpower the Dolphins defense. And I think that the Dolphins... this game I think could be a shootout because it's two defenses that are okay. Dolphins defense is obviously better. But I think Cutler has a decent day against the Saints defense. But Drew Brees and the Saints offense is too much for the Dolphins to handle, and the Saints win. Big score, though. Patriots-Panthers, I'm going to take New England. That's kind of an easy one. Panthers just haven't played well. If their defense can stop New England, they have a chance. But they have to play good on offense, and they haven't. This is the team to do it against. New England's defense has been much worse than people have expected. So this is the game to fix your offense if you're Carolina. Jaguars-Jets. I'm going to take the Jaguars fresh off the momentum that they had last week in London. Jets obviously beating Miami. I think the Jaguars, though, are the better team here. They've got two of the best corners in the NFL going up against two of the worst receivers. Not two of the worst receivers, but one of the worst combinations of receivers in the NFL in Kearse and Robbie Anderson. Jermaine Kearse is almost rendered useless by Jalen Ramsey / AJ Bouye, whichever one he's on, and then obviously Robbie Anderson is covered up by the other guy, and it's going to be. They're going to have to find a way to get separation against two of the top corners in the NFL. And their third receiver, whoever it's going to be, Jalen Marshall, Ardarius Stewart, I don't really know. Whoever it's going to be has to step up because they're going to need him to over the middle. Or, on those dump-offs, the running backs are going to have to play well. They're going to have to get a lot from Powell. It's going to be tough for the Jets to win that game, in my opinion. Titans, Texans in Houston. I'm going to go with Tennessee. I think that they're a playoff contender this year. I think that they're a really good team. Their defense has stepped it up. Mariota looking really good. The 1-2 punch of Murray and Henry has looked really good. Their only issue is their receivers. Are those guys going to be able to continue to be strong throughout this whole season? We'll see. The defense, though, has looked really good. That defense is pretty tough to play against. Steelers-Ravens in Baltimore. I'm going to take Pittsburgh. I know they just lost to the Bears, and that's exactly why they'll win this week, because that's how the Steelers are. They'll go into Baltimore, play their division rival, and they'll play a really good game. I think Pittsburgh will in Baltimore. Big Ben, 2-3 touchdown passes, they'll win easy. They won't win easy. That Ravens defense is tough, but Big Ben goes into Baltimore and gets a win. Bengals-Browns. I'm going to take... Who do I want to take? I'm going to take the Bengals in Cleveland. It's tough going against my Browns, but I'm going to take the Bengals in Cleveland. The Browns have yet to prove that they can play a whole game. The Bengals have done the same thing. This game is going to be horrible to watch, I'm predicting. Might be the worst game out of all of these this week. I'm going to take the Bengals, though. Dalton is going to find a way against this Browns defense to make plays, because that's what you do when you're playing the Browns defense and you have A.J. Green, especially without a Joe Hayden in there. A.J. Green's probably going to lock us up, or not lock us up, but destroy the Brownies. And the Browns, and to compete in this game, have to get some good offense going with Kaiser, Crowell, and Duke, because the receivers are pretty much useless at this point because they can't catch anything. Browns have to find a way to get that offense going. Lions-Vikings in Minnesota. I'm taking Detroit, but it's going to be a really good game, I have a feeling. It's going to be close. Detroit's going to have to find a way to get around the Vikings defense. And the Vikings offense, if they play like they did last week, they'll win this game. I just don't predict them playing like they did last week. They're playing against a little bit better of a defense in Detroit with Darius Slay, Glover Quinn. I think those two are big factors in this game. But I think Stafford and the Lion offense finds a way to get it done in Minnesota this week. Rams-Cowboys. I'm taking the Rams in the upset of the week. In Dallas, I think the Rams win. I think their defense takes the steps that it needs to take to lock down the Cowboys. And I think Jared Goff and Todd Gurley continue their hot start. Hopefully Sammy Watkins plays so that my upset of the week works. But if he doesn't play, then I don't know. But, yeah, I'm going to take the Rams. I think the Rams are, like I said before, Rams are underrated this year for sure. So I'm going to take them. Bills-Falcons in Atlanta. That's could be the lock of the week, but I have a different game in mind. But I'm going to take the Falcons in Atlanta. Julio, Matt Ryan, Devontae Freeman, Mohamed Sanu, Taylor Gabriel. You're not stopping that offense. Even with the Bill defense that's not horrible, they're not going to win that game. Sorry, Buffalo. The Bills offense, they have a tough date too, with the Falcon defense that's much improved. They made a good draft pick in Takk McKinley, and they've signed on Tari Poe. They made the right moves this year to be a better defense. Eagles and Chargers. I'm going to take Philly because Philly's hot right now, and Carson Wentz is playing pretty well. And the Chargers, the Chargers defense hasn't proven enough to me that they can stop anybody. So I don't think they'll be able to stop Carson Wentz and that offense. I don't know how they're going to run I don't know who's going to run the ball for the Eagles, but whoever it is, I think might be able to find some room. And I think that'll help beat the Chargers. For the Chargers to win, they've got to lock that defense up, or they have to be locked up on defense. I don't know what I'm trying to say. I'm sorry. I have no clue. But I'm sorry. And then their offense has to play good. They have weapons and they need to play good. 49ers Cardinals in Arizona. I'm going to go with the Cardinals, but don't be shocked if the 49ers win. Because they might play a better game than I said San Diego. Why? I don't know. Did I say San Diego Chargers earlier? I probably did. Probably said St. Louis Rams, too. It's Los Angeles Rams, by the way, and Los Angeles Chargers. I'm stupid, in case you didn't know. Arizona Cardinals versus the San Francisco 49ers. They're still there. They're not going to leave. Anyways, Cardinals win, but don't be... The 49ers are going to put up a fight, I think. Cardinals defense, if they play like the potential that they have, then this game isn't close. So we'll see. This is a game for the Cardinals offense to find themselves against a below-average defense in San Francisco. Let's put it at that. Giants, Buccaneers, it's hard to pick the Giants, so I'm not going to. You can't be 0-3 and prove nothing to me and expect me to pick you. So I'm going to pick Tampa. It's as simple as that. The Giants haven't proven enough to win games yet, so I'm taking Tampa. Raiders, Broncos, this is a tough one. This is going to be another really good game. I'm going to take the Broncos because they're in Denver, and they have a good enough defense to stop that Raider offense. You've got Harris, Talib, and Bradley Roby playing against Cooper and Crabtree, really, and Cordell Patterson, I guess. Cooper and Crabtree had a tough day against one corner last week in Josh Norman, although Breeland did play a decent game. Imagine what they're going to do against a corner that's one corner, probably two corners actually, that are better than Josh Norman, and a third corner that's just as good, if not better, than Bashaud Breeland. So, I don't see the Raiders receivers finding much room. They're going to have to rely on Marshawn, I think, a lot more in this game. And again, just much like the Jets, they're going to have to rely on that third receiver to step up. Somebody else to step up. Unless Cooper and Crabtree can really find room against two really tough cornerbacks. This game, this next one here, Seahawks-Colts, is my lock of the week. And I don't know why I decided to pick it as this one. But I just have a feeling in Seattle against the Colts, the Seahawks will get it done. I mentioned before that I don't think their defense is the same, and it's not. I don't think that it is. But this is a Colts offense that, yeah, they feasted on the Browns, but anybody could. They haven't played very well in 2 out of the 3 games this year, and they're playing a very tough defense. Even if they've fallen off, they're still a tough defense. You're going to have Sherman on Hilton, and that's going to neutralize that. You're going to have to look for Dante Moncrief. You're going to have to try and run the football. And Moncrief could be, he could be a reliable number 1 guy. I'm not saying he can't. But without T.Y., that offense takes a big hit. And then not being able to run the ball, it would hurt them even more, so the Colts have to find a way to run the ball. Those are the ways that they do win, which I don't obviously see happening. Seattle also has to find a way to run the ball, and this is the defense to do it against. The Colts defense isn't great. They're not known to be great. They've added a lot to try and become great, and I think they'll get there in a few years. But if Seattle can run the ball, they'll win this game. And if they can, it's going to be a little bit closer. I think they'll be able to throw the ball. With Baldwin, Richardson, and Lockett, somebody's going to be open against this Colts defense that has holes at corner and at safety and at linebacker. Somebody's going to get open. Maybe Jimmy Graham, the matchup nightmare that he is, gets open. Whoever it is, they have to get open, and they have to make plays for the Seahawks. That's why I think they will, and that's why I think they'll win. Redskins, Chiefs, can you pick against Kansas City right now? Especially in Arrowhead? With Kareem Hunt? I can't take in Kansas City. It's kind of obvious, I think. I'm taking the Chiefs. I think Kareem Hunt goes off like normal. I think their passing game's going to suck. I think Josh Norman finds a way to stop Tyreek Hill, which helps you lean on Kareem, which makes them lean on Kareem Hunt more. And here's the thing, Tyreek, you never know what he's going to do. Josh Norman might not be able to stop him. It's very tough to stop him because his Twitter says it himself. He's faster than you, and he's going to find a way to get behind you one way or another. The Chiefs offense, they'll think this through. If they have to run screens, bubble screens, little jailbreak screens, or end arounds, or something to get Tyreek the Freak Hill the football, they will do that, and they will win this game because of him. He's an X factor in every game that he plays in. All right. That was fun. My mouth is a little dry from talking for about that long, but I had a good time. These picks are probably wrong, so don't listen to them. Don't take my lock of the week. I don't know anything. That's why I'm doing this podcast. No, I'm just kidding. That's one last thing. Well, two last things that I wanted to touch on. This first thing is the less. Well, it's important, but it's less. I don't know how to say it. It's just not as important. Let's just put it at that. I wanted to mention, and I put this in the description of my channel, so you can go read it there if you want. I don't know why you would even read that, but whatever. I'm not an expert, and a lot of the people that do these sports kind of podcast, in quotation marks, podcast type of things, are experts, or they have more expertise than I do. I'm a kid. I'm just a high school kid who made a podcast to have a good time with talking about football. Even if right now he's talking to himself, which is weird, but he made I'm just a high school kid who wanted to have a good time and talk about football and explain football and have an audience that listens to him talk about football. And that's why I'm doing this. So you can say whatever you want about my opinions. Just remember, you're bashing a high school kid who just has a passion for football and loves watching it, but who doesn't have a high school diploma, who has no expertise in football or broadcasting or analysis or anything. Just wanted to put that out there. That also means don't necessarily listen to everything that I say about fantasy or, what teams to pick or anything like that, because I don't know. I really don't know. But I pretend like that I know. Let's just pretend that I know. And I don't want to, let me rephrase it. I don't want to say that I don't know. I know, but I don't know as much as the other people that are doing these kind of things. I love football, and I watch it every week, and I can tell you a lot of things about it, but I don't know as much as these experts know. So I just want to say that I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments, and I will reply to you, and I'll debate with you, and we'll have a good discussion about it. But I don't want you to just bash me and say, everything you said is wrong, I'm never watching again. Because, okay, that's fine, but remember who you're talking to. You're talking to a high schooler who's not an expert. If everything you think I say is wrong, I don't know what that was. There's my computer. But you guys get what I'm trying to say. I don't want to elaborate on this anymore. I'm just a high schooler. I'm a 16-year-old kid with a passion for football who wanted to do something fun in his free time, so he created a podcast. That's just me. The second thing, I don't want to touch on this too much, but I want to at least talk about it. Actually, it's going to be two more things, because I just thought of something else I want to talk about. I don't want to touch on this thing too much, and I think that every football podcast in the nation is going to talk about this, so I'm going to talk about it because I'm going to be cliche, and I'm going to be like everybody else. The kneeling, obviously, at the national anthem, it's a topic that everybody, like I said, everybody's talking about it, and I think that's the point of why they did it. Well, there's a lot more points than just that, but they got people talking about them kneeling at the national anthem. And those people talking about it, half of them agree with it, and half of them don't. And half the people that don't agree with it have no clue what the people are even protesting. They're just mad because they want to be mad, and they're listening to. They're only going off the judgment that they first made, not the actual thing that these people are protesting. And then the other 50% are genuinely understand what these players are trying to communicate with them kneeling. They're fighting for inequality. They're fighting for police brutality. You have to understand what they're fighting for before you judge that. No, if you're going to judge them for fighting that, that's fine. But that's not fine, because they have the right to do that. But you understand what I mean. You're allowed to have an opinion on whether you think something's wrong or not. However, this isn't wrong in any way. They're expressing multiple different freedoms that the U.S. Constitution gives them. The freedom of speech, the freedom to petition, the freedom to whatever. They're allowed to do this. And they're doing it for a good cause. The thing that people understand is that it's working. Because every negative comment that you say, yeah, it's negative comment, but they made you talk about it. And now you're thinking about it. And whether you whether you agree with them or not, you talked about it. And you probably talked to somebody else about it. So now they know about it. So everybody that talks about this just adds another person to it just adds another person. Eventually, maybe we, the people who are listening to this, could give the players what they want. I don't know. That's just my take on that. I don't really know, but that's my take on that. I went a little too far, and I might have to cut some pieces out of that, because I went a little too far a couple times. But they're fighting for equality, or they're fighting inequality. They're fighting for equality, and some other stuff. Last thing I wanted to talk about. This is a lot less bad. Is that grammar? I don't know. A lot less bad than the last part. That's a little bit of college football. This is called Fifth and Goal. This is a football podcast. Just want to go over the Heisman race, who I have on top. And I think it's obvious who I have on top. I have Saquon Barkley up at the top. That man is an absolute monster. He's one hell of an athlete. He could probably carry me on his back and run against the Rutgers defense and still score a touchdown. And that's nothing against Rutgers. That's nothing against any school. He could put me on his back, and he could play that game against Iowa, and he could still hurdle that dude. He could still run for a touchdown with me on his back and the ball in his hand, because he's an incredible athlete. So Saquon Barkley is the number one player in the nation, and there's no doubt about it. I think Baker Mayfield, Rashad Penny, they're in second and third by a long shot. And I think Penny is heaps and bounds behind Baker. And I think Baker's a whole lot behind Saquon. Saquon is way up on top, and then you move down a little bit more, and then you've got Baker, and then you got Penny, and then you got like Darnold and some of the other big names, like the Rosens and the Allens and the Lamar Jacksons and the other guys like that. So, just my little take on college football. I don't watch college football as much, so I can't really touch on it as much. But anyways, I really, really hope that you guys enjoyed episode 1 of the Fifth and Goal podcast. I'm going to be back next Wednesday. Leave your questions, leave your comments, leave your advice, leave your constructive criticism, leave anything you want to leave in the comments. I don't really know. Let me know what you think of the podcast. Let me know what you think I can improve. Let me know what you want me to talk about next week. Put it in the comments. What you want me to talk about next week, and we will talk about it. I will talk about it. Somebody will be talking about it. And, yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed episode 1. I'll see you back for episode 2 next Wednesday. Goodbye.